Come on, Hannah. If we're gonna reach a breakthrough, I'm gonna need you to open up.
Sir, I am a clam. There is literally nothing I have evolved to do better than staying closed. Look, Doc, I know you mean well, but you don't get it. Every day is the same. Wake up, bury myself in the sand, filter plankton with my freaky clam tubes, repeat. We've been doing this for 500 million years, and I keep asking myself, what's the frickin' point?
Calm yourself, Hannah. Remember your affirmations.
My name is Hannah, I am a clamma, and that is my jamma.
There we go. Feel better?
No, Doc, I don't. I'm just so sick of life as a clam. I want to see the world. I want to fall in love. Some days I wish that the perfect someone would just fall from the sky and take me away. Oh, God!
Hey, there's still the $200 copay. Aw, forget it. Learn more about the adorable evil of the sea otter on this episode of Happybara. Hello everyone and welcome to Happybara. I'm Dr. Happy, and today we're going to talk about the journey, life, and secret evil of everyone's favorite marine water weasel and Hydra lutris, aka the sea otter. Happy, I hear you cry from behind your highlighters and 3-ring binders.
Sea otters are so cute! How could you say they're evil?
Stop it! Don't you realize you're simping for the aquatic version of Ted Bundy?
You have no idea what these things are capable of.
I mean, look at me, I'm adorable, but there's been plenty of mornings where I've woken up inside of a police holding cell not remembering the night before. Yeah, the school sucks at the whole background checks thing. So come along, dear students, as we pull back the veil on the history and adorably savage lives of sea otters. Sea otters exclusively inhabit the Pacific Ocean, living along the coasts of North America and Asia, and are the thickest member of the family Mustelidae, weighing in between 49 to 100 pounds and reaching lengths of just under 5 feet long. It should be noted that they share the title of largest mustelid with their cousins, the giant river otter, which grows to be much longer but not nearly as heavy. But we're not talking about those guys because they're freaks. The fact that otters are mustelids is actually pretty nuts because you couldn't pay most other mustelids to even touch the water. If a sea otter were to show up for a mustelid family reunion, it would be shaking paws with Aunt Weasel, Cousin Skunk, Grandpa Badger, and Uncle Wolverine. Otters are so far removed from the rest of the mustelids that some scientists refused to acknowledge them as part of the family well into the 1980s. Instead, they insisted that sea otters were related to seals and sea lions, since they just couldn't comprehend that mammals tried to crawl back into the ocean on 4 separate occasions. I don't know what's so hard to believe. Have you seen what life on land is like these days? If I could crawl back into the cold embrace of the sea, I would. Life could have been so good if this little jerk didn't decide to grow feet. Unlike the 3 other lineages of mammalian land refugees, sea otters are relative newcomers to Earth's oceans. Genetic evidence suggests that sea otters and their relatives descended from one terrestrial weasel-like ancestor only about 5 to 7 million years ago, which really is not a lot of time when compared to how long the pinnipeds, sirenians, and cetaceans have been swimming around. And in addition to being the youngest lineage of marine mammal, they're also the smallest. So I guess despite being the biggest mustelid, they wanted to play in the biggest of big leagues. Life for a sea otter begins after their mother's 9 to 10 month gestation period, where they pop out a single bundle of joy, unless they have twins. Then in that case, they abandon one because mom's always gotta have a favorite. Now, where's dad, you might ask? Haha, well, don't worry about it. When sea otters are born, they are the cutest things on planet Earth, don't at me. Unlike other marine mammals, sea otters are on a permanent cut and don't have a layer of fatty blubber for insulation. Instead, sea otters have evolved to have the densest fur coat in the entirety of the animal kingdom, with adults possessing approximately 1 million strands of hair per square inch. For reference, humans only have like a measly 200. In fact, sea otter pups have such dense coats that they are 100% buoyant and are incapable of diving underwater. Like a lot of things in the animal kingdom, this little quirk is by design, because it would kinda suck to put in all that time and energy giving birth only to watch your newborn spend its first 10 minutes of life sinking to the bottom of the ocean. But you can't just let the waves take the thing away either, which is why sea otter moms have come up with a solution. What solution, you may ask? Well, just tangle them up in some kelp and let them float like an adorable buoy until you come back with the goods. Imagine having a kid and then just tying their child leash to a stop sign and hoping for the best every time you walk into a Walmart. That's what life as a sea otter mom is like. In the grand scheme of things, human parents are pretty good to their kids. I mean, sure, you gotta feed, dress, and bathe the thing until it moves out in 18 years, but sea otters are having none of that long-term parenting crap. As a sea otter, you get 6 months to get your life together before mama says it's time to vamoose. Good luck, kid. Try not to become orca food. Once off on their own, sea otters gotta learn how to survive pretty quick if they want to reach maturity. One of the first things you learn as a sea otter is that your life revolves around the acquisition of these. Sea otters live off a diet of almost entirely marine invertebrates, with some of their favorites being sea urchins, abalone, clams, crabs, shrimp, mussels, sea stars, and fat innkeeper worms. Which, to be honest, seems kinda rude. It already lives with the fact that it looks like a piece of male anatomy, and now the marine biologists are body shaming it. When I said that the life of a sea otter revolves around eating, it's hardly an exaggeration. If you ever go for a swim in any part of the world where sea otters live, you will learn very quickly how cold that water is. Like I said before, sea otters don't have the thick layer of blubber that other marine mammals can fall back on. So to survive in these frigid conditions, sea otters need to eat 25 to 30% of their body weight in seafood every day. That's the equivalent of an adult male going to Olive Garden and ordering over 200 seafood Alfredos every day for the rest of his life. Yeah, I did the math to figure out the approximate weight of the shellfish Olive Garden uses to make their seafood Alfredo. I'm committed to the bit! Believe it or not, when your survival depends on you eating that much seafood, you tend to get really good at catching and eating seafood, and sea otters have a special trick up their sleeve. Literally. No, like it's literally up their sleeve. You see, sea otters are one of the few animals on Earth that have developed the ability to use tools. Granted, it's mostly just smacking the living hell out of animals incapable of running away with a rock, but it's still pretty impressive. In fact, sea otters have been known to keep their favorite rocks on them at all times, tucked away neatly in folds under their arms. So, literally up their sleeves. While they're not social animals in the same way as some other marine mammals, groups of sea otters can occur in areas where food is abundant and kelp beds are thick. Science refers to these clumped up otters as, wait for it, a raft. Why, might you ask? Well, to protect their delicate paw pads and to avoid drifting away from their prime real estate, sea otters will hold hands with one another, creating the cutest flotation devices the Earth has ever known. While this behavior is undeniably adorable, the sea otter species isn't exactly singing Kumbaya while they're holding hands. See, these groups are often segregated by gender, with the males going off and forming their own rafts separate from the females, which, is probably best for everyone's health and happiness in the long term.
You keep implying how messed up sea otters are, but so far they've been nothing but adorable. Hurry up and show us the clickbait.
I'm getting there! I'm just trying to find the right way to put it all into words, because if I just spilled all the junk that sea otters are into, I would get my channel deleted. I've only uploaded 3 other videos and I'm too young to die! Okay, it's about time I stopped stalling and talked about what makes these little bundles of joy such depraved lunatics. You see, sea otters are polygynous, which means that every mating season, one female will deliver and care for one male's offspring. Meanwhile, the males are trying to hook up with as many females as possible. Combine this fast-paced mating practice with a high level of competition, and you get a bunch of aggressive males who are very, enthusiastic about mating. When it's time to actually do the deed, male otters will grasp onto the female with those cute little paws before latching onto the female's face with their teeth and shoving their head underwater. In fact, one of the most common ways of determining a female sea otter's age is to measure how messed up her face is. Oh, don't worry, it gets worse. Okay, how do I put this next part delicately?
In my culture, death is not the end.
Yeah, I think I'll leave that there. You're smart enough to connect the dots. And if you think you're safe from sea otter mating rituals because you're a different species, hahaha. No. It's been observed on multiple occasions that sea otters will look at anything vaguely cute and otter-shaped, shrug their fuzzy little shoulders and say, close enough. And from what we've observed, baby harbor seals are the ones who get it the worst. That's right, these little psychopaths are using the mating season as an excuse to spawn camp other marine mammals. Wow.
That was a lot.
Shut up, we're not done! As if all the serial killer shenanigans weren't enough, sea otters are also known to take hostages. Remember when I said that sea otter moms will just kind of tangle their kids up in kelp and call it daycare? Well, that lack of parental care is coming back to bite them because here comes Dad. Male sea otters will often wait for mothers to turn their backs on their pups before pulling the old yoink maneuver. Once a male has stolen the pup, the only way for mom to get their baby back is to pay a ransom in the form of food that she foraged for. Truly diabolical. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Oh my god, Happy! The ocean is populated by a bunch of hostage-taking serial baby killers! We need to do something!
First off, slow your roll there, champ. We like to joke around, but at the end of the day, sea otters are still animals, and holding animals to a human standard of morality isn't a productive way to observe the animal kingdom. Let's not kid ourselves, everyone watching this video is a member of a species that has done significantly worse things than any otter is capable of. Secondly, all the perceived evils of the sea otter are purely necessary, because without them, millions of species would go extinct and the entire planet might light on fire. You ever played Jenga before? Imagine the tower is an ecosystem and each individual block is a species living in that ecosystem. As you remove more and more blocks, the tower becomes less stable. But there are some blocks, if removed, can cause the whole thing to topple over from turn 1. These are Keystone species. Sea otters are one of the many animals that reside within the kelp forest ecosystem. Not only do kelp forests provide shelter and food for a crap ton of marine species, but they also actively sequester carbon dioxide from the Earth's atmosphere, reducing both the acidity of the ocean and the amount of greenhouse gases contributing to climate change. All that goes out the window when a squad of quirked up spike balls pull up and decide that the planet catching on fire is more of a you problem. This is the purple sea urchin, and it's kinda known for being a jerk. Sea urchins are voracious consumers of kelp, and can end a kelp forest in less time than it takes to say adios ecological stability, which for those of you paying attention is not very cash money. But in comes our lovable fuzzy psychopaths to save the day. Sea otters are a top predator of the kelp forest ecosystem and are one of the primary predators of the purple sea urchin. Because of that insanely high metabolism we talked about earlier, only a handful of sea otters can effectively keep entire populations of sea urchins at a sustainable level, thus allowing the rest of the ecosystem to keep doing its thing. Today, sea otters are listed as a protected species, but still hold a spot on the endangered species list in no small part because of human activity. Remember how I said that sea otters had the densest fur coat of any animal living on Earth? Well, it turns out that unique adaptations for surviving in frigid water was pretty appealing to a certain group of hairless primates who just invented the gun. All the way from the US's west coast to the tip of Alaska, sea otters were highly sought after by hunters, contributing to the New World's booming fur economy. And it was because of this fur craze that sea otters were almost hunted to extinction. Before commercial hunting began in the 1700s, the population of sea otters was estimated to be around 300,000. But by the time of the 1930s, there were only 2,000 left, with only 50 living in California. Thankfully, in 1911, humans did some self-reflection, and the United States, Great Britain, Russia, and Japan signed a treaty to regulate the harvesting of both sea otters and fur seals. This treaty and other acts of legislation, combined with diligent conservation efforts, has allowed sea otter populations to grow again, but they are far from being out of the woods yet. While you can't just pop a sea otter with the trusty flintlock like it could back in the old days, sea otters are still threatened by a number of human activities, with the most dangerous ones being interactions with commercial fishing vessels and oil spills. While there is still a lot of work left to do, there is a future for the sea otter. To many people, myself included, the recovery of the sea otter is one of the biggest success stories in all of marine conservation. While nowhere near their population before the 1700s, there are areas where the sea otter is absolutely thriving. Hell, there are so many sea otters in Alaska, I'm willing to bet that if they put that ability to use tools to good use, they could probably annex at least half the state for otter kind. While the sea otter might have some questionable tastes that I would rather forget, there is no denying that they are fascinating animals that are unlike anything else on Earth and deserve our protection. And yes, they are still pretty darn cute. And on that note, I think that's a good place to wrap up. If you enjoyed your time in my class, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Happybara, and until next time, remember that sea otters are the reason that the planet's not on fire, so maybe we should return the favor. Just make sure you don't turn your back on one for too long. Class dismissed.
Oh God!